What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are here to discuss this Lions tie versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. We're here with our post-game show. Is this a post-game show? I don't know what this is. Initial reactions are takeaways from this game of the Lions' first non-loss of the season. So let's get it started.
The city's been down, and it found a way to get up. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take two more shots to knock us down. We're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And welcome, everybody, to our video. Glad you guys are here. And today, we got a weird game to talk about. This Lions and Steelers 16-16 final. Yes, we tied in overtime. You know what? We haven't seen this since the beginning against the Arizona Cardinals, the 2019 season. That was an interesting one, but this one just felt different. That one was tough because we blew a huge lead. This one was different. This one just felt weird. It was just back and forth. Really, the end of the fourth quarter, through overtime, the craziness was just such a wild game. And I think a lot of that had to do because each team started to lean more towards their passing attack because there was time, like time was a factor. So each team was like, okay, let's lean a little bit more towards our pass attack. And they started to get away from the game plan that each team came in with. And because that things got sort of ugly, you know, you talk about flags, drops, bad passes. I mean, all of the above, sacks, interceptions. I mean, it was just going nuts at the end of that game. And every time it seemed like the Lions had it, they didn't finish. And then every time it seemed like the Steelers were taking it, the Lions made some crazy play to give it right back to their offense. It was a wild game, that's for sure. Baby steps. I saw someone put that in the chat. Yeah, I like that. A way to describe it. Baby steps. You know, you got to start small. But at least it wasn't a loss, I guess. And I wouldn't say I didn't expect this coming out of the bye week. In terms of the Lions played extremely hard, I thought, you know, clearly there's no give up in this team. They came out with a ton of fight, and I really liked this. I noticed it at the end. You know, when our backs were against the wall, we missed the field goal to win it, and we could have just sat back and said, all right, Steelers, you got us. You crossed the 50, but we hung tall, right? We made the plays. Will Harris jars it loose, finally gets that big play we've been waiting for. I thought Alex Anzalone really set the tone towards the end there. The Lions could have just laid down and let this be another tough loss in overtime where we're like, we had it, but we lost it, taken out of our hands. But they stood up, and they just kept coming back and back and back. And that was very, very good to see. But the big week I'm going to be looking for is next week because we've seen the Lions play close games like this and then come back and just get blown out. We've seen this twice this season against Cincinnati, and we saw it also against the Eagles. How will the Lions respond after a close, tough loss? You had a bye week. I expected this one to be kind of like this. The Lions will come out with some heart. They're getting Decker back. I mean, there's a lot of excitement. But it's about next week to me because this one you didn't lose, which should help. You tied it. But how do you come out? Do you respond with, okay, now let's finish this thing? Or are you kind of like, man, we're drained? Like, how do you respond next week? Next week's going to be the big week. And we even talked about this before that game, that this next week was going to be a big week because I anticipated the Lions come out and play with some dang energy. I want to talk about this game a little bit. Let's do a quick little recap of this one. This was 16-16 in overtime. That was the final of this one. It was a tie. It started off kind of as a slugfest. I mean, the Steelers came out and scored early first, and then the Detroit Lions had an answer. And that answer was a big Khalif Raymond return, which set up a huge run for Jermar Jefferson, his second career touchdown. You'll love to see it. Unfortunately, after that big run, we didn't see him again, though, went down with an injury. And there was a lot of injuries in this game on both sides, really. TJ Watt went down at one point. Coming in, there was no Roethlisberger, not because of an injury. It was a COVID list. Coming in, there was also no Chase Claypool, which probably had something to do with their game plan as well. Then on our side, Goff was dealing with a little something, but you had Tracy Walker, Matt Nelson, Trey Flowers go down at one point in that game. Jerry Jacobs went down. You had multiple players go down. Now, of course, Jermar Jefferson. But I did feel good when the Lions tied this thing up at 10 each heading into halftime. I mean, the Lions, I thought they may have gotten a little bit too cute in the red zone there inside the 10. They tried to do a couple screens, which just did not work that often in this game. The Steelers took it away fast, and it kind of set us behind the sticks, and then we ran out on 3rd and long from the goal line situation, like 3rd and 7 yards out, and we settled for the field goal. But I didn't have an issue settling for the field goal because I was like, look, take the points. I'm fine with a tie game at half. And honestly, looking back, like that was a big field goal because, man, we missed an extra point and our other field goal. So that was okay. I'm actually kind of surprised he made that, to be honest with you. But anyways, it was 10-10 and a half, and I felt good going into halftime. Man, we're on the road. We're playing this game how we want to. I thought we were finally really establishing the run game, the usage of Matt Nelson as the 6th offensive tackle, kind of the swing tackle, a guy that you could put out there on extra sets. Mix this up a little bit with Will Holden. And we were kind of just trying different guys out at this spot. But we really didn't have that extra tackle because Matt Nelson was the starter. But now that Decker's back, it allowed Matt Nelson to be that 6th man and step in and give us just a run-heavy set. And I thought that was huge. That's going to be awesome going forward with this team. through the rest of the season to get to see how they are able to utilize it. I thought that was a huge effect and bonus that I didn't even anticipate coming into this one. On the second half, and the Lions score on a probably what I think was the best run of the season for the Lions, that Godwin touchdown run. 40 plus yards, breaking multiple tackles, giving DeAndre Swift a little bit of a breather, and just popping that thing in the end zone. I think we could have used a little bit more of our other running backs again in this game. I know Jamar went down, but maybe they could use a little more Godwin just to make sure that Swift wasn't, getting worn out, because he did have 33 carries, and he's never had that many carries. So this game was different for him. This felt like a Derrick Henry type of game. We played it like the Steelers usually play their games. Just Najee gets all the touches. I think we could have possibly gave the other guys a couple more touches to just give him a breather, change the pace up a little bit. But we did lean to Swift, and that could have been a little bit of a problem. Either way, though, Swift, man, he was the guy in this game. But that run was beautiful. But then they had to make a missed extra point. And it turns out, if you look at the scoreboard, if he makes that, we would win the game. Now, the game obviously could have played out differently, right? Steelers could have been more aggressive in certain situations, and maybe they do score again, and it's a different situation. So I don't want to say that if he makes that, we win that game. But looking at the scoreboard, technically, yes. It's kind of a dry spell for the Lions. After that touchdown for Godwin, we really hit a wall rushing the football. The Steelers adjusted. As Dan Campbell said, they were kind of over-adjusting, over-aligning defensively. They were shutting down that run. They were selling out for it. I thought the Lions could have been a little bit more creative, and we'll get to that in a second, like they were towards the end. And then that was the end, where the Lions had an opportunity to score at the end of that game, and they were unable to do so. But again, it was some crucial stops defensively. Now, the one in regulation, I believe, was that one where it looked like a messed up coverage for Mark Gilbert because Jacobs was down, and it was kind of a drop pass because it was a little off. That one could have been huge, and that could have given the Steelers the lead. But it was great because it gave us the ball right back. So we were able to at least keep this thing tied and force this thing into overtime. But that just looked like a blown coverage defensively. We had a couple of those, which is definitely not something I loved. I feel like that's one of those things you take away what was good, what was bad. Bad was we had too many blown coverages. I get you got a lot of moving pieces back there, but I felt like we had too many blown coverages where we're just simply not covering our player. It wasn't like, oh, you got beat. It was like, no one's even covering him. We're not in the right spot at all. Actually, the first touchdown was that way. We had like 4 guys covering one. It was terrible. We had a wide open touchdown given up. So broken coverage is kind of an issue, and I thought we were getting better at that. Some Lions focused on defensively, but I think it showed up again in this game. And probably because you had so many young and moving pieces, you're moving Will around. You have the injury with Walker, right? That hurts, so you get the safety down. And then you have the injury with Jacobs. But I did feel like we just had a few too many blown coverages in this game to be, super satisfied with. And then it was overtime. And overtime was just nuts. I mean, I don't think I've seen an overtime like this. I don't know. This felt like the Penn State, Illinois one where it was like no one can score. That's what this felt like. I mean, my goodness, this thing was crazy. Every time I was like, man, the Lions got it. Oh, there's a flag. And then all of a sudden, we wouldn't score. And then Steelers would have it. It's like, oh, no, we're losing. And bam, there we are to make a huge, crucial play. And that's where I give credit to our guys for just fighting and not laying down at any point in this game when they easily could have, especially after the missed game winner. You know how easy it is to sit back and say, dang, we blew it. But that's where I felt like we set the tone coming out of that. I think it was Alex Anzalone who laid a big hit after a short run for Najee right out of that. And I thought that was just a tone setter because it was like, nah, we ain't giving up yet. It's deflating, but we're not just going to lay down. And I thought that was very inspiring. But again, it's about next week for me. It's how do they respond next week. So I do want to talk about what I took away, good and bad. I went back and I watched kind of like the last end of this game, just kind of refresh it and just see what really went wrong with some of those plays. I didn't watch it all. I'll do that tomorrow. And then obviously when all 22 comes out a little bit later in the week, I'll take a look at that. But I do have some notes from it. Just a couple things from the eye test that I would like to see done differently. Overall, I didn't dislike the game plan. Watching it back, thinking about it, I don't dislike what the Lions tried to do. The idea of we're not going to need to pass the ball a ton. We're going to run the heck out of the football. We're going to keep the ball in the air, and we're going to beat you on the ground. We're going to lean on our defense, who's played well against a backup quarterback, and it's an ugly game, so we got to take care of the football and win the turnover battle. And I didn't dislike that idea because it should have won. And like Dan Campbell said here, we should have won.
Like he can make it, he can make it.
But did you think you could win that game just running the ball without much of a passing game, though?
Yeah, we should have, and we didn't, but we should have.
Overall, this game plan kind of felt like the philosophy of how Dan Campbell wants this team to be built. He wants this team to be explosive offensively with explosive plays in the run game and the pass game, and he wants to be known for his defense. And that's kind of how he played. If you go watch the 2015 game when Dan Campbell took over as the interim head coach, trust me, it feels just like this. I'm talking 39 running the football. Like this is Dan Campbell at his finest. I think the first game he took over as the interim head coach, they won big. This is exactly how the game kind of played out. It was like 3rd and long, and he's still running the football. He just did not care. That's kind of how this game felt. Now, I get it because of how the situation was, the circumstances, weather, personnel. Goff's, injury. I get why they did what they did. I actually think they kind of beat him at their own game. I specifically in the second half stepped up big time against Harris, he's just tough to bring down. But I thought they stepped up big time in the second half, really limiting him, trusting our guys in the back end to play one-on-one. I felt like we played like that on both sides of the ball. Offensively, we had a couple shots we looked for. We did hit that one to St. Brown in overtime, which put us in a great spot. Actually, I think it was the first play out of overtime. We didn't do it a ton, but under center play action. Another one we went to, we got sacked. I don't even know if he got back in the pocket before he got sacked. I mean, they got there so fast, they blew that thing up. The early one, I remember we took a shot to Khalif Raymond. It was a little late. I don't even know if I would call it a short arm. Maybe because he doesn't necessarily have the arm power to get it that far. So it was late for him. He was trying to hold off a defender, and he went back deep middle. I didn't see it because I don't have the All-22 for that play yet. First off, they said that Goff's injury had something to do with it as well. But I don't think it limited to the point where they couldn't throw the ball. Because if they couldn't throw the ball, then I don't know how he would have played at the end of the game when we were pressed for time and you had to throw the football. Like, that's where I felt like it started to get ugly, is because each team was pressed for time at the end. So it was no longer we could play our own game plan. We got to start throwing the football. And that's where I think things got ugly for both sides. Really, Steelers had some ugly plays, but I think both sides, ducks, drop passes, flags, sacks, I mean, just everything, all across the board. One team that had a bad quarterback and missed their top two receivers. For us, we didn't have Josh Reynolds in this game. Which I'm thinking about that. Maybe that was either one, Josh Reynolds couldn't go, so they were like, all right, let's just lean even more on this run game because we know we don't have this guy. Or maybe it was, Josh, we're not all the way with you yet. Let's hold you out because we know this is going to be our game plan, knowing the weather, knowing how they play defensively, how we want to attack this. For anybody that watched the video this week when we talked about this offense, I think we were kind of on point when we talked about possibly seeing less receivers, more tight ends, and instead of going to so much of the decoy plays, maybe in this case, because of the weather, playing more to their strength, what they felt like was the run game, less receivers, and playing that style. Now, I don't think we're going to see this style every week, especially when we're indoors, because, it's a weather thing that's also thrown the factor there, and also not having Josh Reynolds. But notice we didn't really see Kadero Hodge in this game, right? We didn't see him. We went less receivers. We saw a little bit of Benson, but it was mainly St. Brown. It was Khalif Raymond on the outside, more tight ends, an extra offensive lineman. We went to that. And that's what we talked about this week, that we can that I think we're going to see more from the Lions for the rest of the season. It's one way that they can change it up, and I actually think it'll be beneficial. It's kind of like the reasons that we talked about, right? The Lions clearly lost some trust in their outside receivers when Cephas went down. They've been cycling through them, and for right reasons, drop passes, missing blocks. So this allowed them to kind of utilize the guys that they felt like could be where they needed to be, but also block, make plays in the screens. And at the same time, now having Decker back will slowly, I think, can help get us back to possibly opening up this pass attack a little bit more. We get Reynolds, which may come this weekend or against the Browns. I believe he'll be able to play on the outside. So he'll be able to be one of those outside receivers. That way you could possibly put St. Brown in the slot a little more. I think the game plan didn't make sense. I mean, like Dan Campbell said, you should have won this game. I mean, you really should have won this game if it wasn't for a couple of things, you didn't take advantage of, right? And I'm not going to put it all on one person, but you probably should have won this game. But I thought, it's on the road. This is how you wanted to play it. You wanted to beat them, right? You want to beat them in this ugly way. You want to go to their house, protect the football, make them turn it over. I thought you did all the things right on paper that you want to do, but we just had a few things where we were unable to capitalize. We played a screen-heavy game again, and we had a couple of them that had some success, but really a lot of times screens were they weren't good. They weren't good, and some of that was the defense was like, all right, we know what's coming, we're dumping on those, but other times it was just either messed up in pass protection in the front five. I'll give them credit. They hit some of their blitzes well. Here's a cornerback blitz on the bottom, which just blows up this screen completely. But you could tell they had 10 guys down here. They only had one safety deep. So they were selling out anyways, and this screen just got completely killed. And shout out their D lineman. I mean, he recognizes this where he gets out there, makes a play. Hayward was all over it. That's read and react. So we weren't able to get to the pass. Sometimes the Steelers D line just played it real well, diagnosing it. It was a holding. It was a missed block on the screen and screens, the running back screens. And we tried to lean on those like we have been. We didn't have a ton of success doing that, though, so I thought that struggled a little bit. The one thing I would say I would have changed about this is I would have liked to see them go into more shotgun runs. Now, I know I can say, oh, well, hindsight's 20/20. Of course, I would say that now. But we were saying it during the game as well. I thought the Lions could win more shotgun, spread it out, and run the ball like they did at the end. Because what they did at the end is they spread it out because the time situation, they had to throw it. So they spread them out. Well, they ran out of that formation, and it found some more success because really for about the third quarter, midway through the fourth quarter, we had no success running the football at all, at all. Until we were in that situation where it's like, okay, you're expecting to pass, and we're spreading you out. Now we're going to start running out of the gun. That's where the Lions started to find a little bit of spark that they lost for about a quarter and a half there. And that happens, but I feel like you got to adjust. I think the Lions adjusted too slow there. Again, this was Dan Cable's first game as a play caller. He's called plays in the past, but he was the guy. He wanted to have the communication with the golf. And, I get it. I do as a coach. When you're looking at this, you got to do something. You don't want to just sit back. I respect that out of Campbell, rather than just sitting back and saying, well, I don't know what to do for you. Him stepping up and saying, I'm not okay with this. We're going to try something different. If it's me trying to do it, okay, we're going to try it. Because 0-8, how can it get any worse? So I respect that part of it. Like, let's do it then. Let's try something new. I respect it. But I think that was one spot where he'll look back and say, man, we could have adjusted a little bit sooner, because I think spreading the ball out, getting some runs, helped spark a run game where they were really shutting it down. And like Campbell even said, they were over-adjusting defensively. They were ready for things because they were selling out for it. I think going to the spread forced them to respect the pass a little bit more, because clearly we could pass the ball. It was just our game plan to run it. And maybe that could have gave us a spark a little bit more, or just one of those drives where we went like 4 straight, stalls. Maybe just one of those drives, you could find any kind of rhythm or spark to possibly get us some points. And we good. I thought the Lions made some timely, key forced turnovers. Like I said, I thought the Lions, they didn't lay down. Really on either side of the ball, they didn't lay down in this gun. They just kept battling and fighting. And they showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of the will to be deflated multiple times and keep coming back and punching and punching and punching. It's just like the intro. Like Dan Cale said, we get knocked down and we're going to get right back up and we're going to bite a kneecap. That's what they did today. It felt like they got knocked down and they got right back up. And they took another hunk out of them, right? They just weren't able to close and take that final hunk, but they kept getting back up. That's what it felt like in this one. They're just like, I got knocked down, and they just kept stepping back up. They're like, hey, we going. We ain't done yet. We ain't done. As deflating as that last hit was, we're not done yet. And that's what I really liked. And we had some key ones, man. We had some big ones. First off, the one that sticks out is Will Harris. I know it led to a tie, but I'll take that over a loss because, again, we could have easily laid down. They were in pretty much field goal range. And a lot of times you would think that game ends in, they kicked field goal and win because we didn't take advantage of our opportunities. That's what usually happens. But they didn't lay down. Like, Will Harris played till the end. I love the adjustment of Will Harris to kind of play him like a box linebacker, because you were on the sub packages, knowing that the Steelers are spreading you out at the end there because of the time situation. So instead of putting Will Harris in the back because there was no T-walk, you just decided to use him as kind of like a linebacker, like a slot, kind of like a hybrid. You played him in that role where he could hit, fly around, and help underneath in coverage. And you put Jalen and Dean Marlowe back. I thought that was, to me, that was a cool decision to make. And especially at the end there, because that's what it really matters, sub packages. Normal packages, you can't really do that because you got linebackers. But I did like that, and man, he made a huge hit, and it was nice to see him make that big play. I thought he flashed a few times this one, but that play you'll remember, especially if you'd have won this game. But I thought that play was huge to give us the ball back. And then, of course, the Mark Gilbert one. Jerry Jacobs goes down. Mark Gilbert, they're going to test you over and over and over. Multiple times, I thought he made some good plays. As this game went on, I felt like our Hornets just got better. Like, we settled into this, and Amani played well. Jerry Jacobs started playing really well. And I felt like Mark Gilbert kind of just came in on the fly and gave us some stuff. Now, they attacked him, and the one that they really beat him on, which could have set up a game winner for them, he fights back into the play, gave me Kenny Galladay vibes, and strips it. It was so nice because he's the one that gave it up. We were trusting our guys one-on-one to help stop the run. It was very similar game plan each side. We trusted the run, and we played one-on-one coverage in the back end. And they took multiple shots, and our guys stepped up to the challenge. This time, they beat us. Right, you got a young corner sliding in there. They beat us. But Mark Gilbert showed heart, and he's like, nah, I ain't going to let this happen. I'm going to get back in this play and make a play. And he strips it, and the Lions pick it back up. That play was huge, man. That was huge. I got a lot of respect for that, not giving up. Obviously, missed opportunities is one of the bad things because we had a lot. And I hate to just kind of roll through them, but we had a lot. The extra point miss, the field goal miss, which was set up by a hold, which backed us up. So we had to run it, which got us close. We did a screen, actually. It got us closer with Khalif. It lost some yards, though, because if we didn't hold there, we could have had about 4 or 5 yards. I know it's nothing crazy. It doesn't sound like it, but 5 more yards on that field goal attempt possibly could have led to a different result. So that was set up by a flag. Dropped interception by Jalen Elliott, right? That was a big one. So you did have some missed opportunities you just left out there. You just simply left on the field, and those hurt. But again, you didn't give up. You didn't fold. We folded this season before. We folded against Philly. When things got tough, we folded. We just gave up. We didn't fold in this game, and I respect that. But again, that's why it's going to be big to see if they do that again versus Cleveland on the road after a tough one in this game. Flags. Those continue to be killers. We had 8 today, and I thought there were some very critical flags that hurt, man. That one, like I said, the Hawk one was tough. He had a couple of those. Jonah struggled a little bit, at least towards the end there. I'm not going to go off on him now because I don't know. I didn't see the whole game. I have to watch it back. But I thought he struggled a little bit towards the end. We had Decker out there. It was his first game. And I think maybe he was shaking off a little rust, but I don't think he played bad. I don't really think he played. I'm not thinking, oh, he played terrible. I don't think he played his best game. This free blitzer, which was pretty easy to pick up, which I don't know how this happened. Like, is this scam protection? What is this? Are we really trying to double team block Hayward inside? I don't know what this is. It just seemed like the missed pickup, right? They missed him. They didn't see he was coming. Jonah didn't see it, or Decker didn't point it out. Someone didn't point this out.
Oh, maybe Swift was supposed to pick this up, and that's why he's watching the backfield the whole time. Either way, this was a complete blown, and this was a 1st and 10, so this hurt.
That was a weird free rush we gave up, and I noticed later the Lions went to that play action where they tried to take a shot, and I thought Swift had a pretty pickup, in protection. It was a 3rd and 23, which was set up by a sack. I think that backed us way up there. It was unlikely we were picking this up. Actually, 3rd and 23 was because of a sack on first down, I think. And second down, we had a drop by Swift, which didn't allow it to be like 3rd and 16. So it's 3rd and 23, and because of the time, we just took a shot anyways. Play action. Swift, I thought, had a great pass picked up, but they called a flag. I don't know how this is holding. Anyway, they get that with the call, and that one's incomplete. That was one of those ducks. It'll still be a little bit of an issue, and I think hopefully Decker can help us back with that as he gets comfortable, back to his thing, and I think next week maybe that'll be better. It was his first game back, and I think he can clearly hold his own, but it would be nice to be able to pick those up. I think Jonah needs to play better. I think he's had some struggles for weeks. This was not an easy one. Look, the Steelers had a good defense. Very good defense, actually. Like, they might let you move it a little bit, but they don't break. They really don't break. Red zone, 3rd down. I think we could have been a little bit more creative in, like I said, that slump from about midway point of 3rd quarter to the 4th quarter of how we ran the ball. Don't have an issue with running it. I think we've been more creative on how we ran it. The one I said before half, where we did this tight end screen or whatever, and it was blown up, and then on 3rd and 7 from the goal line, you hand it off, okay. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that in hindsight, but it's a tough one. But I do think we could have been more creative through that time span instead of just going under center handoff, because there really wasn't a lot of throwing threat out of it. The only threat we really had was trying to throw a quick screen to the receiver, which didn't work a ton either. Don't have an issue with that game plan. I thought we left some things out there. I thought the St. Brown one, maybe he can make that big catch. Someone just needed to make a big play offensively down the stretch, and no one was able to do that. Guys made the big plays defensively, so shout out to them. We just needed someone to come through in the clutch for us. We needed a big catch. We needed the field goal. We needed a big run. We needed a big block, right? We get that holding calls. We had a block on those screens, when we're missing blocks around the edge where you have St. Brown and Hockenson unable to pick up an edge rusher, which blows up a screen. We need that one pass, right? I mean, we just didn't have that play. And it was all across the board, right? It was all those things I just mentioned. Goff had that one duck on 3rd and 23 where, he may have had possibly a guy there if it wasn't for him throwing a duck. And that was like, oh, yeah, weather's probably a big factor of that. But, obviously it wasn't anything of like, hey, we can't throw the ball. Because if they didn't believe they could throw the football, first off, I don't think Goff would have been out there, number one. And two, they wouldn't have done it towards the end. When the game was down and it was crunch time and the time was where it was, the Lions got away from the run and they spread it out. And I think the Lions could have done that a little bit earlier, a little bit more 3rd quarter, and just run out of that a little bit. And just mix in the pass a little bit more than just simply relying on the run on 1st down and 2nd down. I thought that hurt. But I do appreciate that fact. Tie game. This is a good team you played. On the road, this is a very good team you played. And like I said, I don't think the scheme would have been crazy different if Big Ben was even out there. We talked about it this morning. I thought it was similar just in how the scheme would look. Maybe there was a couple things, results-wise, Big Ben could have never reversed. Maybe some passes that he wouldn't have missed. But overall, I thought schematically we saw a very similar scheme, even if Mason Rudolph was out there, right? And Rudolph has played. He's won some games. They've never finished with a below 500 record with Tomlin. So he's won with backups and 3rd strings. This is still a good team. And I just thought the Lions, knowing the personnel, knowing they're missing their top 2 receivers, knowing they had their backup quarterback, knowing our receiver situation, where it was at, knowing the weather, Goff's dealing with a little bit of some kind of injury, just playing that way of football was perfectly fine to me. I just think you could have been a little more creative with how you went about it and when you went about certain things. But overall, credit to special teams. I thought Fox did his job multiple times, especially when we had to put up for our end zone. Shout out to our defense for hanging tough and not backing down.
I know there's a lot of individuals that I show love to, and I will tomorrow on Last Second Dose, so check it out. But definitely Sewell.
And the kick return, punt returns, and coverage I thought was all solid. So I'll leave it there. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss this probably a little more. And then we have Last Second Dose, of course, on Rad's channel. That's on Last Second Sports. Make sure you guys check that out. And then, of course, we'll go through the All-22 at some point this week. But it's a tie. It's not a loss. So don't be upset tonight. It's not a loss. That's good. This was a tough game coming in. We all knew it was going to be. I'll give credit to the Lions' run defense as well. Najee Harris, they wanted to play through him. And like they did to us, we sold out to stop the run as well. So credit to our cornerbacks for allowing us to play one-on-one coverage. I thought we could have got more pass rush than we did. I don't think we got a ton of pass rush even when we blitzed. I like the way we tried to disguise it. We constantly put 6 guys on the D line, and then we dropped into coverage for our linebackers. I like the disguises. Felt like we had a little more success. We really didn't get, I don't know if he sacked this guy one time in this game. We didn't have a ton of success getting after him, aside from really the snap that went over his head. I think our front four was I was hoping they'd win a little bit more than they did in this one, because their offensive line wasn't great. It was solid, but it wasn't great, especially when they had Kevin Dotson down. If he got a little more pressure in this pass game, would have been beneficial, but they were running it so much that I get why it's a little bit tough, because you don't know they're passing the football, right? But there was a couple times where we just had some missed blitz opportunities, and we didn't make a play on the quarterback. That one was real nice by Alex, who forced a quick pass out, and the other blitz that forced just a bomb on the deep sideline. So we had a couple things that forced it. We just didn't finish, which I think we possibly would have helped us big time in this one. But again, we'll be back tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Lions tie Steelers 16-16. Thank you, Pop, for watching, and I'm out.